What is up? Warm hello. How's everybody doing? Let me know if you can hear me all right. Let me know if you can hear me all right. Let me know if everything is going okay. I'm just really happy to be here. Bitcoin is kicking butt. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We'll talk about Ethereum. We'll talk about Litecoin, not Litecoin today. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, top altcoins. We'll have a good time here. This is, of course, going to go into the quick market update series. It's on my YouTube channel. If you haven't, check that out. I think there's a lot of value in going back and actually watching like old live streams for me, how I've been covering the market. I try to make every video interesting and educational, right? I try to add something fresh, something timeless. And today we'll talk, we'll talk risk management. We'll do a little bit of trading psychology today. I've got a few things, that I want to talk about with you folks. So just let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if everything is going all right. I'm just checking on a couple things here in the other screen, so hang out with me for uno momento. Looks like we're live. Let's see if this is working. Should be live. We should be live. And it should be working pretty good. So, folks, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, but I want to remind you, of course, that... All right, we're good. Folks, sorry about that. I'm just getting the kinks out. So, look, we got Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin first, and then I'll roll right into everything. You want to start out, of course, on the weekly time frame to get a sense, of what the trend is. And every time you're operating within a lower time frame, every time you were operating, daily or a 4-hour, when you're trading, you're doing something like that. You want to make sure that you know what trend you're operating within, and that's incredibly important, right? So on the weekly chart, it's a beautiful trend. It's quite strong. We know that. We have price above the rising EMA 8. We have price above, the trend in classic charting. This is the SMA 200. And what's interesting about the weekly chart is that we got this little clue here. We had this inside bar, right? So we had this advance after the price tag the MA 50. If you remember, there's a lot of panic back in the market. As the price was drifting back towards the MA 50. We made that, temporary double top with a little bit of a higher high, and we started this consolidation. And we were just drifting back down towards, the MA 50, and we found support, right? And if you remember on lower time frames, there was reversal that brewed, allowed you to get back long again at 81K. Hear me? Allowed you to get back long at 81K, and the price continued to advance. The price accelerated. We had that 88.5K breakout, which was quite notable. 94.5K. The price continued through and grinded higher, right? So we've been watching this advance here on the weekly time frame, and it's just been nice where we've had higher close, higher candle close for a series of weeks, right? One week after another, and then we had this first inside bar. And what that means essentially is it's this candle, and I talked about it here, on YouTube, and I talked about it on Bitcoin Live, of course, and I'll get to that in a second, is that first inside bar is hinting at consolidation, right? That first inside bar is basically saying, looks like looks like we are starting some consolidation. Looks like we are we're getting ready to do a consolidation, which is what you need to continue higher. Anytime you advance, you have to pause and digest. You have to pause and rebalance that short-term supply and demand dynamic. You have to rebalance that supply and demand dynamic, and people tend to get chopped up in that environment, and they tend to think that it's bearish, but it's actually important to pause and consolidate. So what we've had as a follow-up to this inside bar is these doji, right? 2 doji. These are consolidation candles. These are indecision candles. You have to say it's been pretty bullish that we've essentially held the price gains of Bitcoin for the last 2 weeks, during this consolidation period. And we'll drop to a lower time frame, and we'll examine this, of course, and we'll take a look. Good, everybody can hear me. We'll take a look at what it means in lower time frames, of course. But the inside bar and really just price above a rising EMA 8 here on the weekly, which is incredibly bullish. So we saw this candle, which hinted at consolidation, that told us, hey, we're getting ready to pause. We're getting ready, you know, to do a little bit of consolidation. And we've been tracking the trend on lower time frames, like the daily, like the weekly. And folks, get your questions ready, by the way. I want to hear from you in the chat room. Those of you who are joining me here today, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Even if you're watching this in replay, thank you for hanging out. Get some questions ready, charts you want to ask me about, trading situations, things, you know, that you want to ask me about, and I'll try to add some value. I'll try to create, you know, make it an opportunity for everybody else. So get your questions ready, of course. We have something, you know, something for everybody else. So we've been tracking the trend, of course, on the lower time frames, and a lot of people tried to draw the head and shoulders here, and they were doing their neck base a couple different ways with a rising diagonal. I think that's a little bit fraud, or not really the way to do it. I like it more so, of course, with a horizontal neck base line right around 100K. So the price looked to be pausing and consolidating, and we talked about that in the weekly. We can see it illustrated here in the daily chart. And, you know, most reversal patterns fail. Even most head and shoulders will fail, because most of the time it does not complete. It does not confirm. It doesn't actually break down and break that neck baseline. And we started to have the invalidation, the right shoulder invalidation, bounce into a lower high, drop back to the daily MA50. And it's now essentially just consolidating at the peak of the range, near all-time high, looking pretty strong. And, you know, what we want to do is, despite that, we want to be ready and mark out levels for if things continue to break down. Definitely have that 100K level below. We've got the 96K cluster we're keeping an eye on. And as the price advances here, you know, we're certainly going to watch and see if it can challenge this lower high. Folks, just a reminder, this is part of the quick market update series on my YouTube channel, of course, at Cheds Trading. If you're just here for the first time, you know, welcome. It's great to have you. I've got a huge library of educational content on my YouTube channel. I would recommend you start with the Masterclass Technical Analysis tutorial playlist. I'm trained in professional technical analysis, classical charting, and Japanese candlestick theory. I did CMT level 1. I'm doing CMT 2 right now. And essentially, I try to take the complicated and the academic, I try to make it a little bit more simple for you. So I have a lot of learning videos. I've published 4 books. And my most recent book, of course, is The Trading Journal. It's available right now on Amazon. The reviews are in. People love it. And thank you for that, folks. It's why you should use a trading journal, how to fill one out, what goes in it, trading setups, you know, that type of stuff right there. Since I published a new book, as you know, what I like to do is make my other books free, right? I already have a free version of Trading Wisdom. I've got a free version of my Battles with Cancer. And I've been building the free version of my 3rd book, which is Trading Quotes. And I'm actually going to read a little bit from this today. I think that'll be fun. So recently I published a book a few days ago, weeks 11, 12, and 13. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of all the good stuff I'm putting out for you. You know me, of course, from Twitter, where I'm at Big Cheds. I put out a lot of stuff on there. If you're looking for an exchange, check out BingX, which is my favorite exchange. And to remind you, this week is special because Bitcoin Live, right? Bitcoin Live is the best in the world educational platform for crypto. I love my team. I've been working with them for more than 7 years, and twice a week I put out a full market report every Wednesday and Sunday night. Many of you are members, and thank you for that. We do a sale about once a year, and it is the 7th anniversary week sale right now. So essentially it's going to go on for the next week. I'm going to be live streaming every day this week. I'm going to be doing spaces on Twitter, which will be fun. So you get an opportunity to hear from me. Please do join, you know, bring your questions. I love engaging with you folks. Essentially you get, you know, the first 3 months for only $99 or $97, right? Which is just an amazing deal. You can pay credit card or Bitcoin, of course. You have the option right there. This is just something I'm really proud of. And when we have the Bitcoin Live Week sale, I get really active. So I'm going to be streaming every day this week. You'll see me on Twitter, like I said. So reach out to me. Let me know what you think. If you go to our public blog, I put out reports. I usually have, you know, my 3 or 4 times a year, I'll have one of my reports declassified so everybody can see, you know what it's like there and what I do. So recently, at the end of March, I had one of my reports declassified. So go ahead and check that out. But let's get back into what you're here for. We'll start, talking about the chart. I want to check in with the chat room in a minute, but I'd just love to hear from you folks. I'd love you to get some questions ready, things you want to talk about, charts maybe you want to talk about. So Bitcoin is chilling. I mean, for sure. Bitcoin had the failed right shoulder, put in a lower high. It's above the 100K breakout level. It's above the MA50. We're watching, we're studying the trend, and we're looking for signs of it weakening or strengthening. And that's just the way we're going to continue to operate. And MA50 on the weekly is very important. We're nowhere near it, but we would want to continue to watch that on the next mean reversion, whenever that may be. In the meantime, it's just primary acceleration, right? It's just price above the rising EMA 8. Exponential moving average means it's more price sensitive to the most recent candle. And as I said, inside bar and now multiple doji, and we're consolidating. So what do you do? Well, in theory, you could have taken just, today, intra-candle, intra-session, another long on the recapture of 107K, right? 107K is a reasonable overhead level. That was the right shoulder. It failed to hold on the throwback, but it still lines up with the peaks from December and January. And it's the best, essentially, you have in terms of like defined structure for an overhead level. In the meantime, if you're a value buyer like I am, you like to wait for a dip. It's going to be 100K. It's going to be, again, 96K zone and the 88.5K kind of, low ball bid panic dip level way below here. Doesn't mean it's going here. But you want to mark out levels that you might be interested in if everything kind of, breaks down, people start to freak out. So you just want to prepare yourself, and that's how you want to mark things up. Let's get to Ethereum in a second, but I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. What is up, Rube? What is up, Psalm Capital? Peter, nice to see you, buddy. Hey, Tommy. Let's see, Harley. Friday the 13th. What's up, man? How you doing? And Matej, good to see you, folks. Good to see you, folks. I hope you folks will decide to join me when I do my spaces later. I love hearing from you, and it's funny when I do, the spaces. I end up begging people, hey, please, someone come ask a question, because I can just talk. I can talk forever. I can talk about a lot of different things, but I love hearing from you. And if you're watching me on Twitter, you can go to YouTube. And as soon as you subscribe, you get a chance to just, you can leave a message in the chat room, and then I can hear from you, answer your question, look at your charts. Marcos says, thanks for being who you are. Thank you, buddy. That's really nice of you to say that. Thank you so much. So let's go here. Let's see what you folks want to talk about. So Tommy wants to know about Solana. Yeah, so let's talk about Solana. And Solana's been oscillating. It's been bouncing, if you will, in between a pretty well-defined range of demand, where you have buyers right around 140, and you have the overhead level right around 180, where the price is paused here. Recently, it paused, initially paused on, this is the, remember the day when we had the like crypto reserve, right? ADA XLM, and everything was bouncing. That was this day, and then Bitcoin was at 94.5 this day. Remember that bounced into 94.5? It was initially when it bounced into the underside of loss resistance, right, for Solana at 180, and it consolidated. It set this bottoming range with the lower low sweep. This is when Bitcoin did 81K, and we had to bounce right back into that level at 180. So you have a pretty well-defined overhead level here, right around 180, sorry, and the 140 roughly demand zone. The question is, you wanted to know about Solana, right? Let's see. What do you say about Solana? I think there was a specific question about Solana, or maybe I'm just having it in my coffee, so I got things mixed up. Someone asked about CRV. Well, really, I'll talk about Solana and then CRV. So I think there's not much to do here, other than I think you do want to continue to respect the buy zone. I think you would be buying the dip right around the 140 range. I think that's reasonable. And you could take that 180, 185 level as an overhead trigger. There's not a strong trend here. It's roughly trendless, on the daily, similar to Ethereum. We're seeing this Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and we're seeing essentially trendless behavior, chopping around sideways. 34, 820 are all sideways. The MA 200 sideways. And we notably had that another, small body in the weekly candle, which just represents a weakening of bull force. You had the strong advance on the weekly into the MA 200 and just a series of small bodies, indecision candles. Normally this rolls over. You normally will see this roll over and at least test the midpoint of the prior candle. You call it a BART. You call it a tower top, whatever you want. It has the pre-tower look. We shall see if we continue to challenge these upper shadows, forming these up thrusts and rolling back and continuing to close in this level. It's a frustrating, challenging range to trade because it's trendless. It's generally exhibiting trendless behavior. This is trendless behavior in the local, really the kind of the minor trend is trendless here, and even the secondary trend with the MA200 being flat. So the question was for CRV. Let's take a look at CRV. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Monday. Not everybody loves Mondays. I understand that. The week starts and all that, but every day there's potential for opportunity. Every day is a chance for you to grow and learn and get a little bit better. So the question was upside targets. It's an interesting question. I'm not always a fan of focusing too much on targets. Because I generally, my philosophy, generally speaking, is that if you focus too much on targets, it tends to take your focus away from the price. Because if you, for example, if you convince yourself of a certain target, CRV should go to 115, 120, you might ignore other signs in the price. You might ignore signs of weakening trend. Should the price pause here again at 85 cents? Should the price pause lower at like 105? So, targets are fine, but you want to be careful that you're not convincing yourself ahead of time of something that's definitely going to happen, because you're setting yourself up to potentially miss out on some information. So you want to be very careful with targets. The question, though, and I'll try to answer it directly, and I'll try to answer all your questions directly and honestly, is upside targets. Well, if the price holds here at 60 cents, which is a very clear pivot, a very clear stair-stepping level, throwback level, obviously 80, 85 cents would be your first target. That's an upside target. That's if the price holds here. This is where the price paused last time. You want to respect the levels that the price is telling you to respect. And then should the price clear it, I think it's got a decent shot to around 108 to the 110 range. I don't know if you're asking me for like upside targets, if this is the bottom, if it's going to go to the moon, right? I don't know that there's any value in looking even really above 85 cents right now. I think you have to stay attached to the price. I think you want to stay connected to what the most recent price action is doing, and not overlook obvious levels where, sellers have stepped in here. And that's still the case at 85, 86 cents. Harley, thank you, buddy. Says you're awesome. Thanks for carrying and sharing. Thank you, brother. Folks, I don't know if you've seen much of the Trading Quotes playlist. It's really good. I'm really proud of it. Maybe I'll riff in it for just a minute, and then we'll jump back in and we'll take a look at we'll jump back in and we'll take a look at, the chat room questions. So I've done weeks 11, 12, and 13. I'm making this entire book free, right? So I did 11, 12, 13, and I'll do a full video on this, but maybe I'll pick a couple quotes. This is an interesting one, right? Traders who forget to use stop losses magically transform into investors. And you can read it or whatever, screenshot this, do whatever you want. But it's the point where you start out with a really good idea, and I'm buying here because price is at support, and it's this tough thing where it's really hard to let go of a trading idea that fails. It's really hard to say, this trading idea has failed, and I need to move on, right? Because we tend to get, stuck with our idea, and we don't want to admit that, hey, we failed. Hey, we might have messed up here a little bit. So what happens is a lot of the time the stop loss hits, we ignore it, and then we were a trader initially because we wanted to buy at a certain level. We wanted to execute a trading strategy, but we just hold, and now we just magically have transformed into investors, because now we're checking the chat rooms, we're checking news releases, and we're looking for reasons to convince ourselves that it's okay to still hold on to the failed idea, right? Because we're stubborn and we don't want to take that little loss. We don't want to admit, that this plan has failed, right? That our idea has failed, and we started as a trader and we magically transformed into investor. You want to be very careful of that. It's a thing where you need to just get out when the idea fails, because if you don't want to be an investor, now you're a bag holder, now you're a quote unquote community member. You got to be more precise. You have to come in with a plan, If your plan fails, just get out, move on, accept it. Just to remind you folks, I'm going to be really active this week. It's the Bitcoin Live 7th anniversary sale, best team in the world that studies crypto. When you sign up, you get access to the entire team's work. 3 months for only $97 to get started. It's an awesome deal. We do the sale about once a year, and I'm super, super proud of our team. Let's check in with the chat room. I want to see what you folks want to talk about. I want to try to answer your questions. I'd like to add value. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to add value. I definitely enjoy doing these streams. I definitely enjoy interacting with you folks. Rube says, I've been wrecked in the past, looking at previous all-time high targets. Yes. Great info and staying focused on local demand and forgetting previous all-time high targets. Yeah. Yes, you want to, especially with like a lot of these coins, these tokens, where the quote unquote tokenomics can change. And I'm not a fundamental analyst, but if you're looking at previous all-time highs, supply could be completely different. The trend could have completely rolled over, just like a bad chart. Like I always kind of like Filecoin's not a great chart. I don't look at that often, but every time I look at it, I'm like, this thing's terrible. Yeah, it's a terrible chart, right? But people ask me to, cover it from time to time, and you could be stuck thinking, man, if I buy here at 250, then it can go to, $187, right? Because that's what it was in June of 2021. That's not a plan. That's not a plan. First of all, trends tend to continue. So you need to orient yourself to be working with the trend, trading with the trend. If it's an uptrend, you want it to dip so you can take advantage of that move against the trend. If it's a downtrend, you want it to bounce so you can take advantage of that and short it. So you want to orient yourself to be trading with the trend. Trading's hard. Don't fight the trend. And focusing on previous all-time high targets is not going to do anything for you. Like saying, Filecoin should be at $75. What does that do for you down here? This is a very steady, controlled downtrend. Any kind of bounce would have to pause and work through all this, this overhead supply. There'll be sellers in here. It'd be incredibly difficult to bounce through it. So stay focused on the local action. Understand what it means, of course, in the context of the broader trend. And we'll go from there. What's up, Crypto Big D? Thanks for joining me here today. And folks, hey, make sure you show up to my spaces later today. I want to hear your voice. I want to answer your questions. Crypto Big D, been doing some additional learning on Gann square theory. Okay. All right. And what I think is really cool, and I say this as I'm studying cycle theory in CMT2, and it's really hard. I'm glad we have Bob, just to plug my colleague Bob Lucas, who's wonderful with cycle theory. What I like is there's a lot of different methods. There's Elliott wave traders. There's just candlestick traders. There's people who trade on the order book, the OI, they trade on a million different methods, right? There's a lot of different ways to do this. And I like that. The question here is Gann square theory. I don't use that method, but it suggests Bitcoin is peaking in this area, as you say, and may consolidate until a bit later. I've not used Gann's theories, but what is the evidence of Bitcoin peaking? There's simply no evidence of Bitcoin peaking yet. All we have is evidence of consolidation has begun. And consolidation generally will resolve in the direction of the trend, which in this case is an uptrend, okay? So the price is in an uptrend, okay? Which makes you want to orient yourself with the trend, and because trends tend to continue, okay? So there's really no evidence of a topping here yet on Bitcoin on any time frame. Even if you drop to like a 4-hour, it's still technically an uptrend in the 4-hour. It's priced above a rising, MA200, which is the definition of a trend in classical charting. The daily trend looks quite healthy, respecting MA50 on the last bounce, well above 100. Weekly chart looks, kind of stunning. It's really strong. Price, primary uptrend support, aka EMA8. It's above that. It's consolidating near all-time highs. There's really no evidence of a topping quite yet. You'd have to see some damage being done first before you'd want to bet against a trend. Now, Gann theory, there's a lot of different methodologies, and if that method works, I would encourage you to continue to use it. But I'm going to continue to teach my style, my methodology, which is classical charting, Japanese candlestick theory. Of course, it's explained in the Masterclass tutorial playlist. I'm going to do another one later this year. I'm preparing for it. It's going to take me some time, but I will live stream it. Can you look at SPX? Now, I assume you're talking about the SPS 6900. I'm not sure. Matej, if you are referring to the actual SPX or the meme coin, let me know. Meme coin looks really strong, grinding higher. I think the question was about long term. I don't know that you can say anything long term. If you were talking about SPX in terms of the S&P 500, yes, I can talk about long term. But if you're asking me about this meme coin, Matej, there's nothing I can tell you long term. There's just no history. You don't have a lot of history or enough history to think long term. So I have nothing to say, long term on this meme coin, but the trend itself is pretty strong right now. Okay. Psalm Capital, what's up, buddy? How would I play hype, right? The question is, how would you play a strong uptrend like hype? Folks, by the way, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Cheds Trading. If you're watching on Twitter, you can subscribe and you can leave a message in the chat room, and I'll take a look at your request. I'll see what I can do. I'd love to hear from you, hear your comments, your feedback. How would you play a strong uptrend like hype? Bids at EMA 8 or wait for it to reset? Yeah, that's a good question. So there's not a ton of history. I mean, it's hard to just play EMA 8, right, in this situation, right? I think you'd have to work off of some local structure, some local horizontal structure. You could potentially, some type of an aggressive long around 37.5, 38 on the throwback, kind of the MA20. And the thing with like a moving average, and talk about this in moving average basics. I talk about it in the trading journal. I talk about it in trading quotes. All my work, obviously MA20 is held, but you want to, if you're going to use it, use something like a moving average to alert you to look for a nearby horizontal level to structure your risk. So something like a dip back to the MA20 here, lining up with the wick from this Friday candle and the peak of this spinning top would be reasonable. So I think your first throwback level might be around like 37.5. I wouldn't necessarily just, play an EMA 8 tag, because you can see the price chops through the EMA 8. It's hard to know when your idea has failed unless you're just strictly going to use like a 2-candle close below the EMA 8 to say like, hey, my idea has failed. Okay, talk about Solana. Okay. What's up, Marcos? I'd love your take on virtuals. I'm trying to find an entry. Okay, let's take a look. See if I can pull it up for you. And thank you for the question, folks. Virtuals. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's take a little look. And your question is, I'd like to take a look. I'm trying to find an entry for mid to long-term investment. Why would you invest? These are absolute garbage. All of these are just fun casino coins. These are vehicles for speculation. The idea of like, you're asking me about investments. I'm the wrong guy. I'm a trader. I hit it. I quit it. I move on. I don't really respect any of these, but I do respect a good uptrend. Now, the question is, you're looking for an entry for long-term investment? So I don't know about that. Okay. It doesn't have enough history to think of like a long-term, like it doesn't have enough history where you'd say, well, I'd love to see it drop back to this range to buy, to hold for, for a year or two. Because the problem is, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. It's a deep dip. This is a well-defined level. But the problem is, by the time you get down here, you're probably in some kind of a falling channel with bear momentum threatening the MA200 rolling over. It doesn't have a ton of, it's decent. It's not a terrible chart. It just doesn't have a ton of history. I think what you would want to do is, if you're looking for an investment and you want to hold for long term, you got to just play an all-time high break and structure your risk maybe based on like that $4 level or something like that. Because if you're talking about long term, you're not having a tight stop loss. You're talking about like, even the weekly type of longer time frame, not even looking at the daily. This is a box, right? This is just, in candlestick theory, there's just a box, it's a sideways range. I don't have a great answer because of how you phrased it. When you talk about you're looking for an investment, you want to hold it for, long term. I think that's just a different, that's just going to be like, it's just a different way to play it. So, I'd be very careful. I don't have a great answer because it doesn't have like a ton of history for me to think of like long term, right? Bitcoin live sale is back on, says Diego. Yeah, Diego, great, man. It'll be great to have you. I look forward to seeing you. Folks, when you join, you can request any coin. I respond to every comment on the videos. I haven't missed a video in like 6 years, every Wednesday and Sunday night. Even when I'm sick, I'm traveling, I'm on vacation, Bitcoin live. So Diego, it'd be great to have you back. I look forward to hearing from you. Influence says, good morning. What's up, Influence? Good morning to you. Where can I get a good CMT textbook from? CMT Association. I think you can probably buy it from Wiley and Sons, like the website. It is published by Wiley and Sons. I will be honest with you. I'm reading the CMT2 textbook right now. I bought it years ago, though. I've been slowly reading it. I don't actually remember exactly where I bought it from. But I think it was probably like Wiley and Sons website or something. So I don't know. But I don't think it is really going to be that hard for you to figure out where to buy the CMT textbook from. So I would probably first go to the website, the CMT Association, and kind of follow along from there. Reminder, folks, this is part of the quick market update series on my YouTube. Let's see what else you folks want to talk about. I'm checking out the chat room. You just go subscribe, leave a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's my favorite European country? That's a great question. What is my favorite European country? Maybe Greece. Those islands are nice. But there's so many. I mean, France, vive la France. Deutschland, Germany. I mean, just, you can't really play favorites because I have so many of you who are from these countries. I don't want to say, one favorite or another, but just a warm hello to all my friends over in Europe. I hope you're doing well. Sola, nice to see you as well. Appreciate you. Yep, you got the face cam, you got the orange mask. This is how I look. I was born this way, right? Don't judge. Can you please give me my thoughts on hymns? Sure. Yeah, I'll look at like non-crypto stuff here too, if you want. We're having fun this week. Because it's the Bitcoin live sale week. I'm going to be live streaming all week. So there's a good chance for you to kind of just chew the fat with me, ask me a question, and we can kind of go from there. So let's take a look. A stream looks good. I'm doing the restream thing, so it's showing up on Twitter and on YouTube. So I'm just checking a couple things. I'm still working out the kinks to make sure, but everything looks pretty good. Just again, a warm hello to my friends on Twitter. Head over to YouTube, subscribe, and you can comment in the chat room. Hymns looks pretty good. So what do we think about it? Let's go to the weekly chart. We'll get a sense. That's a very strong weekly trend. And the price is almost accelerating out of this. It's accelerating out of this. Look at these moving averages are fanned out beautifully. Nice price distance to the MA200. That's a strong trend. That's a very strong trend. We'll zoom in a little bit on the daily. You see the advance into the peak of this consolidation range and the pause. You can call it a cup and handle if you want. The names don't matter so much, but you have a very large rounded base. You have the peak of the base rather well described with your breakout level right around 69.70, and then you have the consolidation right here. There's a pretty nice little cup and handle. All right, what was your question specifically? Let's see. A lot of questions lining up in the chat room, folks. Thank you. And by the way, if I miss your question, it's just me. I'm not ignoring you. I don't have a moderator. Last video, someone said, why do you always ignore my questions? It's just me, folks. I'll definitely miss it. It's looking like it will break out. Yeah, my thoughts on this is it looks really good. This looks really, really strong. I like this chart. I think it probably will break out. Cheds Spaces sounds great. Thank you, Peter. They are a lot of fun for sure. Coinbase USD for what, Diego? What were you asking me about? Let me just check a couple things. Diego, what were you asking me? You said Coinbase USD for what, man? What is it that you wanted to talk about? Let's see. Okay, so Bottega or Botera says, hey, brother, I was looking at Bitcoin long at 79K. Oh, yeah, I was long at 79K. Okay. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Hope everybody's having a good Monday as well. Warm hello. Great to have you here. And just really thank you for being here. I did SOL. Yep, I did SOL. Influence is still between 140 and 180. So the question was, looking at Bitcoin at 79K, I tightened my stop loss at the all-time high rejections last week. And was stopped on around 106. My thesis was to re-enter at 95. I see. Okay, considering that scenario doesn't reoccur, what would be a good re-entry? 107K. I mean, just like I said, if you stopped yourself out, what was the stop loss? 106K? Well, it looks like your stop loss has been invalidated, right? Your original trade idea is still valid. So, The recapture of 107K was a valid overhead trigger. I talked about this last night in Bitcoin Live. I mentioned that I was less inclined to use it as like a short setup because I want to be trading with the trend. So I was more likely to use it as a flip, flipping long. If you're looking for a little more value, if you think the market's going to shake out, bake out, 100K is quite reasonable as well. Let's review a couple tweets I had from just a few days ago when the market was under pressure. And I wanted to, nice hammer candle for Bitcoin off the daily MA50. All right, so here we go. So we talked about, this is back in June 12th. We're now talking about 4 days ago. So maybe we can update a few of these tweets. And so, again, I know you folks can't watch the chart all day. That's what I'm here for. I'm trying to create value. I'm trying to keep an eye on the market for you. And so, for example, QNT, decent spot on daily to define your risk. You have a drop back into a well-defined peak that was turned into support. You can either take a short on a loss of that level with your risk well-defined, right? Like if you short here, you're not going to hold like above 106, 107, right? Or if you short just below. And if you long here, you're not going to hold, if it drops below 100, for example. And that's price interaction with a key level. So I put out that tweet, good level to define your risk. And there we are. Very nice bounce so far. Very nice bounce. I should update that. I should tweet that out and update. I'll do that later. So you get a nice response off of that level. What's the next one? I also put out, just to give you a heads up, I try to give you folks, I try not to spam the feed and put out too much stuff, but I try to give you a heads up when there's stuff maybe going on. Zcash, here we go. Throwback on daily, Confluence SMA 200. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? So, and it's still essentially doing a throwback. It's still trying to hold here. Better response from QNT. A throwback is a bullish retest from above. So if you have a resistance level, you break the resistance level and come back, you're done a throwback. Confluence means there's also, it's combining or lining up with the fact that the MA200 is there as well. It can be support. Just makes this a little bit more of a stable or a well-formed level of interest. Can I take a look at Link? Sure, I haven't looked at Link in a while. That was a good one. Take a look at Link. Hope everybody is doing well. Bitcoin Live sale. 6.5 days left. 6 days left. You're going to hear from me all week. Live streaming. Make sure you've watched free version of my third book, Trading Quote, because the Trading Journal is out now. The reviews are out. People are loving it. Why don't you check it out? Let's take a look at Link. Folks watching me on Twitter, you can head over to my YouTube at Cheds Trading and subscribe, and I can hear from you in the chat room. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So what is Link doing? It's not a great chart. It is not a great chart. I really do think you kind of want to ignore it and not do anything with it right now. Coinbase USD in the weekly. What? Diego, what are you talking about Coinbase USD in the weekly? You mean like the Coinbase chart? What do you mean Coinbase USD? Can you let me know what you mean, Diego? Link, it's, I need to see strength in Link, and I need to see it recapturing this key level. Lost support, it's kind of meandering here, trying to do a head and shoulders, breaking out, failure to really do anything, and dropping back, even a right shoulder failure here in the inverted head and shoulders. There's just not a lot of strength. There's just not much of a trend here. I like to work with more strength. I like to ride a trend. There's not a very strong trend here. There's not a lot of strength here. So, I'm just not that enthusiastic a bit at all about this chart. So I generally don't like it. I think there's a lot better stuff out there. A lot of great questions so far. All right, just reviewing the chat room, seeing how everybody is doing. All right, folks. So it's going to be a fun week. We got a lot of stuff to do. We'll check out WIF as well. Good question. It's going to be a fun week because I'm going to be live streaming every day this week, and I want to hear from you later today. I'll be doing a Twitter Spaces later today. So hopefully I can hear from you. You can bring your questions. You can bring your chat room questions. You can bring, trading psychology questions, whatever you want, because I want to continue to create value. That's why I do these. Let's take a look at WIF. All right, dog WIF coin. What do we think about the dog WIF coin? I don't like it. I don't like this chart at all. Don't like it. Hopefully you are not in this coin. This looks to be going lower. The market is clearly interested in other things right now. There is an attempt to break out of this base, but we have break out of the base, but it was turned back and rejected. It lost support. This is a downtrend. You have price below a falling MA200. This is just not a good trend. So I don't like whiff. I would suggest that you play something else. All right, let me wrap stuff up here. Folks, make sure you've gone to my YouTube channel, Cheds Trading. I teach professional TA, classical charting, and Japanese candlestick theory. Start with the Masterclass tutorial playlist. I have a new one coming this year. I published my 4th book recently. It's available on Amazon, The Trading Journal, why you should use a trading journal, what goes into a trading journal, all the various parts of it, good trader habits, emotional management. It's a wonderful book project. Many of you have already bought it, so thank you. I hope you enjoy it. I'm making my last book completely free, the Trading Quotes book. You've seen my quotes on Twitter many times, so I'm going through, I'm reading the entire book. I'll do another video pretty soon on that as well, so check out that playlist. And Bitcoin Live, it's the best team in the world that studies crypto. This is my team. I've worked with them for 7 years, and we have the 7th year anniversary sale. You get to join for 3 months to start out, only $97, which is kind of a crazy deal. Many of you listening are part of Bitcoin Live, have been in Bitcoin Live, and so thank you for that. I hope you enjoy. I love your feedback. And I look forward to seeing you at Bitcoin Live. You can just reply to the video or respond to all the questions. This is a great time to check out the service, see what we do. And hopefully I'll hear from you folks later today. I'm going to be doing a spaces on Twitter later today. I want to hear from you. I'll just be chatting, hanging out, talking about the market, and we'll go from there. So folks, thank you so much. We'll finish it off, of course, with the Church of 8 Wheels, and I will talk to you soon. Let's do it. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much.